Let me tell you, if you ever wake up thinking your day will be peaceful, you're probably tempting fate. I learned that the hard way. I got out of bed, made myself a strong cup of coffee, and headed to my front door to soak in a quiet morning, maybe watch the sun peek over my sturdy old ranch gate, the same one I installed years ago to keep my dog from chasing after deer and, more importantly, to keep random folks from just rolling onto my land. That was the plan, anyway, but the universe had other ideas. Because the first thing I saw, swear on my grandfather's boots, was Karen. Hands on her hips, standing right up at my gate like she owned it, hollering that it was illegal and had to come down immediately. Apparently, my private driveway had suddenly become her personal highway, and my rugged metal gate, the one with all the county permits and warning signs, was the only thing keeping her a prisoner in her own cul-de-sac. Now, let's be clear, this wasn't just some casual neighborly complaint. She was red-faced, waving around her printed HOA guidelines, yelling about her rights and authority, demanding I remove the gate this instant, repeating the word demanded so much it sounded like she thought it would summon backup. The wildest part? My gate's been there way longer than she has. Heck, it's marked on every map, every plat since the place was built, and I got every scrap of paperwork to prove it. But no, Karen insisted my gate was blocking her access to the road, even though she's got her own driveway and her own exit, literally a few feet further down. She just wanted to use mine because it was a couple car lengths shorter. And somehow, that kicked off the most ridiculous property feud this town has ever seen. She started waving her HOA folder like it was a court summons, arguing the association rules overrode my property deed, as if the world worked like some twisted HOA monarchy. I tried to tell her, real calm, mind you, that not only was this my land, but she had zero right to set foot past the boundary. Of course, Karen logic doesn't live in reality. She poked her finger in my chest, said she'd be back with the rest of the council, meaning her wine night friends who all were the same sour expression. For emphasis, she parked her car right up against my gate, blocking herself in, just to make the drama bigger, I guess. She could have reversed out using her own driveway, no problem. But she puffed up and said she wasn't about to risk scratching her precious SUV tires on her own pavement, not when she could shortcut through mine. She kept going, too, insisted the community rules gave her the right to use the easiest route available, like she was royalty and my land was the peasant's shortcut. When reason failed, she took a deep breath and started screaming for help, yelling that she was being imprisoned by a metal barrier and a cruel neighbor, and wouldn't you know it, neighbors started peeking out their windows. I felt like I was watching a low-budget soap opera starring Karen as the world's most dramatic victim. She said she'd call the sheriff. I told her to go ahead. She did. While waiting, she paced around, yelling about human rights and emergency vehicles being blocked, ignoring that first responders literally have codes and bolt cutters for this, and that, oh yeah, her second driveway was sitting wide open on her own land. I just stood there, sipping my coffee, letting her dig the hole deeper. Sheriff rolled up not long after, and you could see on his face that this wasn't his first Karen rodeo. She dragged him to her property line, pointed dramatically at my gate, and insisted she was trapped. He took one look at her clear, paved driveway and shot her a look of pure disbelief. Then he turned to me, asked for my paperwork, which I had ready in the garage, every permit and signature right there. Sheriff said everything was legal. Karen sputtered, tried to cut in, insisted he forced me to take down the gate because she said so. The deputy just warned her that misusing emergency calls could land her in hot water. Watching her try to backpedal was the best part of my morning. But Karen never retreats. She just pauses to plot. As she squealed out of my driveway, tires spinning, I knew in my bones this was just the first round. She'd be back, louder and crazier. She had no idea the gate she wanted gone would end up being the only legal exit to her property, a little trap she was building for herself. Sure enough, next morning, sun barely up, she's marching back up to the gate, clipboard in hand, dressed like a mall cop with a caffeine addiction. She yelled she'd found violations that required the immediate removal of my gate, her voice cracking like she was uncovering a terrorist threat, not a cattle gate. She waived her HOA rules like Supreme Court orders, even though my house is outside their boundaries and was built before the HOA even existed. Logic again, not Karen's strong suit. She started ranting about unity and conformity, as if matching mailboxes mattered more than deeds. I try not to laugh. She claimed her GPS now saw my gate as her route, like Google Maps determines property law. She took dozens of photos, narrated into her phone like she was filming a true crime episode, declared she felt spiritually connected to my driveway, and that the land itself wanted this to be the community exit. I started wondering if it was the hair dye talking. She dropped a fake violation notice in my mailbox, complete with her signature, Karen, HOA president, even though her board was just her, Cheryl, and Donna, who only ever show up for Chardonnay and gossip. That afternoon, her minions marched up for a judgmental parade. They chanted about community unity, even though it was just the three of them, while real neighbors hid behind curtains. Cheryl ranted about aesthetics. Donna said my gate scared the children, even though the kids love it, and always ask about the motor. When I told them to leave, Karen yelled about public access roads, and I had to explain again, my driveway, my land, not a public road. She started filming, chanting aggression at the camera, trying to get me to snap. When I didn't, she rattled the gate, shrieking that she was locked in. The sheriff showed up, again, same tired look, asked where her driveway was. Karen dragged him over, still there, untouched. He sighed the sigh of a man who regrets his job. He reminded her filing false reports is a crime. She just stuttered that she'd take it to the HOA court. Sheriff left. Karen pointed at me, trembling, vowing she'd rewrite the rules and force the county to make my driveway the official exit. Then she'd have the gate removed. What she actually did was file a road easement claim at the county office, complete with a blurry satellite photo with a crayon line, claiming it was an old path across my land. Her move triggered a formal review, surveys, paperwork, the whole circus. Here's where karma did a little dance. The county discovered her own driveway was partly over a sliver of land not legally hers, thanks to a decades-old clerical error, which meant, for a while, her only guaranteed legal access to the road was, you guessed it, my driveway through my gate. The thing she hated was now the thing she needed most. The county sent a guy with maps to explain, awkwardly, that my driveway was the only lawful exit for Karen until she fixed her deed. Her face when she heard that, jaw down on her knees, eyes like a cartoon frog. She screamed that it was all a conspiracy. The county and I were out to get her. Surveyor calmly explained she'd need my written permission to use the gate. She demanded I leave it open for her convenience. I told her she could request access each time, politely. That sent her over the edge. She started talking about judges and public necessity, even though the surveyor told her the only judge she'd meet would be charging her with trespass if she tried to force entry. That afternoon, she and her minions showed up again, pounding on the gate, threatening to climb over, crawl under, whatever it took. She even left a fancy demand letter on my porch, threatening to park on the street like a peasant if I didn't give her unrestricted access. The next day, she tried being polite, rang my doorbell, fake smile, asking for community spirit, said she needed to go shopping. I told her I'd open it if she apologized and promised to stop the harassment. She almost made it through a fake apology before erupting into more insults. When that failed, she parked her SUV to block the gate. I called the sheriff again, and this time, they told her she could be towed and fined. All of this made me realize I could turn this into justice that lasted. See, the county was now reviewing that little sliver under her driveway, and if they auction it off, I could buy it, making her driveway legally mine. That would mean Karen would have to pay me for access forever. The most poetic revenge I could imagine, honestly. But Karen wasn't done melting down for the neighborhood. Every morning she'd march up, new stack of papers, new legal threats, rehearsed villain speeches. She lurked near the boundary, trying to catch me coming or going. If she blocked me, I'd just make another cup of tea and wait her out, watching her pace like a kettle about to blow. She started calling emergency services, claiming someone was dying, so they'd break open the gate. The dispatcher caught on, warned her she could be charged for false calls. She even hung caution tape and human rights violation signs on my gate, tried to get donations to defeat the gate tyranny. The county told me to apply for full rights to the disputed strip, and I became the top applicant, thanks to adjacency. Karen still didn't realize she was tightening the noose herself. One night, she and her friends tried to break the gate, all black clothes, tools, and a battery-powered saw that couldn't cut a breadstick. Alarms went off. Cameras caught it all. I called the sheriff. Karen was handcuffed and taken in for violating court warnings. The neighborhood watched. Some folks even cheered quietly as their self-proclaimed queen was escorted away. The county finished the paperwork. My ownership of the driveway strip became official, judge signed and certified. I upgraded the gate, steel latches, remote monitoring, motion sensors that ping my phone. The installer joked I'd built a fortress to keep out wildlife, but everyone knew the only beast I worried about wore cardigans and wielded HOA rules like a sword. Karen's husband packed up and left. Rumor was he started the sale process behind her back. Karen tried one more time, showed up with cookies and a smile so fake it hurt to look at, asked if I'd just make the gate public for community kindness. I declined. She stomped the cookies into crumbs, cussed me out, and stalked home. Final straw? The sheriff served her a restraining order. No more coming within 25 feet of the gate unless escorted. She screamed conspiracy. Neighborhood folks started recording her, phones out. She accused everyone of violating her privacy, which was rich since she'd filmed me half a dozen times for her fake HOA case. Her last move, shoving HOA papers through my gate at midnight, declaring she'd revoked the access agreement, and now the HOA controlled the gate. The next morning, she strutted to the courthouse, papers in hand. The judge didn't even let her finish before ruling. HOA rules have no power over private property. My gate was 100% legal, and Karen now had to stay away from my property unless I approve her access, plus pay restitution for every sheriff visit and court filing. You could almost see her ego physically collapse. She tried to blame everyone, me, the county, her husband, the whole corrupt system. Within a month, the for sale sign went up. She stayed inside, peeking through blinds, watching her little empire slip away. When the house sold, she walked through my gate one last time, suitcase in hand, no camera, no screaming, just a defeated warning that life would pay me back. But when she drove off, the whole neighborhood exhaled. Peace returned. New family moved in. Kids' laughter replaced the yelling. Sometimes I sit on my porch, sipping coffee, watching that gate. My gate, swing open, and I have to laugh. Because in the end, the gate didn't imprison Karen. Her own ego did. And the only way she ever left was through the gate she spent a year trying to destroy. So what do you think? Did justice win? Or did we just watch another episode of the world's strangest soap opera? Drop your own HOA horror stories in the comments. Share your thoughts on property rights. And tell me, where do you draw the line between rules and reality?